મીઠું ઝરણ છે જિંદગી ને નિસાસો નાખશો એક રણ છે જિંદગી જે જીવો સારું જીવો જે જીવો સુંદર જીવો બસ એક ક્ષણ છે જિંદગી. So what is life? Life is this moment. And what are we thinking all the time? We are thinking of earning the money and saving money. Cost cutting. Is it worth? Our treasure as a pathologist is our reputation. And to save few rupees, are we heading towards wrong diagnosis? Let us have knowledge about the subject, cost of cost cutting, by Dr. Sujay Prasad. He is the director of Anand Diagnostic Laboratory. He is innovative in using newer technologies in his institute and in various fields of pathology. I welcome Dr. Sujay Prasad for his talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A very good afternoon to all of you. Like this, the pilot announces, just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Because what I'm going to talk is not going to be intense at all. It's morning intense session has been done. So you've had a good meal. If your eyes feels heavy, allow it, enjoy the siesta. But get ready to be awake when I finish my talk and Madam starts her slide seminar. So I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the second opportunity to come and stand on this stage and share with you the journey that we have gone through. And I was surprised that Dr. Prashant and his team accepted a topic like this, because I just told him that I can talk on cost of cutting costs because we have gone through cutting costs and we have paid for it. So we could share that journey. And he said, let me discuss with the team and get back. And I thought, that's out. So I had given another topic of sigma metric, which is a more intense topic. And he said, no, you do cost of cutting costs. That's how I'm here trying to share with you this cost of cutting cost. And I'm going to try and be on the same page as you are, because if I share my understanding of the topic, I'm hoping that you will also be on the same page. There's another term, capability, and I would like to share some thoughts on that. And I will share some experience with some examples. So when you look at the title itself, there are 3 words, 2 of them are common. What is it that each one of them mean? Because you have cost, you have cutting, and then you have cost. But each of these words have different meanings. So if you look at the first one, this cost which we are referring to is probably money. It could be peace of mind. It could be quality. It could be time. It could be safety or employee standards. This is not an exhaustive list. This is the cost that we are referring to when we talk of cost of cutting cost. Of course, when we look at cutting, we are talking of decreasing whatever it is. And whatever that is the second cost. And that second cost is nothing but money. Over lunch, we were discussing commerce is the center stage of our lives in this era. But my take is we should be the ones who should be driving the commerce, not the other way around. Most of us are working, being driven by commerce, and I think we need to change that. So if we have cost of cutting cost, there has to be a corollary. There has to be benefits of cutting cost. And then there's cost of not cutting cost and benefits of not cutting costs. Am I confusing you? I have succeeded. Because they're all, the 2 of them, the cost of cutting cost and benefits of not cutting cost is the same. And benefits of cutting cost and cost of not cutting cost is the same. Further confusion. But anyway, I would want to share with you my understanding of capability, and that's come from this book, which is well written by Clayton Christensen on how will you measure your life. And he talks of capability in 3 aspects. The first one is the resource, which all of us are aware of, and this is the visible part. Whether it's the man, machine, material, method, or money. These are the visible aspects of our lab. This is typically the resource of our lab. But just having the resource is not sufficient, because without processes, these resources are not effective. Believe me, having a high-end total lab automation without processes is a waste of money and effort. So if you need to use the resources effectively, you need to have the processes to ensure that the resources interact between each other to such an extent that they become efficient. But just having processes driving the resources is not sufficient, because what will bring in the process is the priority. You need to have your priorities very clear. It could be anything, could be quality, money, growth, valuation. There's nothing right or wrong, but it is what you believe in and what you make your priority. Because if you make quality your priority, then what happens is you will have this priority driving you to develop processes in such a way that these resources are used to ensure that you get quality. Or if money is the priority, you will build in all the processes to ensure that these resources bring in the money. So it is just about how you drive your priority through the processes that you have built to avail the resources. But looking at priority would come with a little more philosophical mind, and that would be, what is the outcome we are looking at? Because at the end of it, what is the purpose of life? If each one of us ask ourselves that, at least what is the purpose of my life, then we would try and use that to develop a priority. So essentially, results matter. And results matter, it depends on the capability that you are having. So capability depends on the resources that a lab currently has, processes that are currently in place, priority of the lab management, and for me, understanding the purpose of life a little bit philosophical. So the laboratory activity has a whole lot of processes. I'm not going to details of this, I'm just put this up because at each of these processes, we can cut costs. And that's what we did many years ago. And these become the foundation stones for your work. So I'm starting with some examples, and I'm hoping that I will be able to share with you what I'm trying to communicate, or try and get you to understand that. The first one is that of sample identification. In 1998, we were having about 200 patients per day, and they were all handwritten tubes. And there were transcriptional errors. So these were becoming a pain, because every week, 2 to 3 patients had to be recalled and rework done, which is tremendous problem. So I was just trying to, can we get this a little more bright? Madam, I think you will have difficulty in your slides. So this is better, thank you. So we have 4 tubes here, 329970, 330512, 329970, and 322918. How many of you believe this is 330512? Please raise your hands. How many of you believe this is 330572? Yeah, so we have 2 opinions of the same number. So this patient may land up with a wrong report if the person who's written the number and the person who's doing the test is not the same. There's another problem here. The 329 series has become 322 series. So handwritten tubes are, they're underestimated for the possible errors. And what's the solution? It's a barcode. And barcode in 1998 was expensive. It was 50,000 rupees for a small instrument. So the thought process was to bring in a barcode printer and start labeling the tubes. But 50,000 is a lot of capex. That's the word that is generally used nowadays, capex, capital cost. But it's really not a cost when you look at the kind of benefits you get from that. So you label the tubes and the slides, and you're able to see that you have two costs here. We had to label each of our tubes or two tubes, and the cost of barcode label was 1 rupee per barcode label. Now, the cost was 500 rupees per day, and the other cost, which I was referring to, time, peace of mind, and quality, was there. Which do I choose? The first one or the second one? Thank you. Because that's what we chose, and we brought in a barcode printer to ensure that we have time, peace of mind, and quality. The next one in 1998, by the way, I'm sharing with you these experiences which are pretty old. For many of you, it may not even make sense. But the only way I can communicate to you what we went through those years and trying to get them to current day concept. Instruments with disposable cuvettes. Cost per cuvette 7 rupees. Average test per patient 4 rupees. Cost per patient 28 rupees. This is great opportunity to cut cost. And what do? Wash and reuse. This we were doing very energetically because we were saving 28 rupees per patient. It was big savings even if cuvettes were washed twice. Every rupee saved is rupee earned. I've heard this more often than not. Results were excellent. It gave a triumphant look and feel because I'm cutting down the cost. Sense of devious satisfaction. Gradually, errors started creeping in, and we didn't know where it was coming from. Initially, it was denial. We thought the errors were not attributed to cuvettes. But then we realized that our imprecision was increasing. Test results, unusual values coming out of the instruments, and reagent color changed even without sample being added. And that's because the washing was not effective. So what did we do? With great reluctance, we accepted the fact that washing cuvettes was not good. But did we go back to disposing of the cuvettes? No, because we wanted to cut costs, so we brought in an ultrasonic cleaner to wash the cuvettes more effectively. This is crazy. And when the cuvettes have to be discarded, we want to reuse it only to cut costs. So the flip side of the alternate solution was time was lost in identifying the right washing process. Additional labor, cost of extra ultrasonic machine, productive time diverted from core processes. So finally we accepted loss of time, peace of mind is costlier than 28 rupees. So we chose time, peace of mind, and quality. Gloves. Gloves is essential for good laboratory practice. Protects the user, decreases incidence of occupational hazard. Great reluctance to wear gloves. I don't know how many of you in this audience who are running the labs have had difficulty in convincing our staff to wear gloves. This was many years ago, about 2003. And they just didn't want to wear gloves. They just wanted to handle the sample because they had the feel. It was one of those days when I just went in and said, this sample, and this sample are HIV positive. The moment I told that, from that moment onwards, they have put on gloves and never left it. But after much efforts, gloves are now being used. Cost of a pair of glove, ordinary powder glove is 3 rupees. Powderless glove is 14 rupees. This is the nitrile one. Number per day, 25. So ordinary gloves is a great opportunity to cut costs. Side effects, we had contact dermatitis. We have had staff who had extremely difficult time wearing the gloves. So we introduced the powderless gloves, and we regained confidence of technologists and had better compliance. So again, we chose employee standard over the cost of the additional cost of the glove. Vacuum tubes. This is an example that I often give because before I was convinced that we have to move to vacuum tubes, we were using ordinary tubes. And these tubes were 70 paisa at that time. And the vacuum tubes were 7 rupees. We were saving huge amounts of money. And these were the tubes that we used. It worked well, used as primary tube with barcode, found no need for vacuum tubes. The only disadvantage was that serum had to be separated after analysis because you can't allow it to be with the RBCs. Anticoagulant was manually being added if we used heparin, not a standard size for conventional automations, but the cost cutting was significant. Gel tubes introduced into the market at close to 8 rupees, daily consumption of so many tubes, so the saving was 280 rupees versus 3,200 rupees. It's just huge. So preserving samples without separation became an issue. Retesting of preserved samples affected quality, and ISO 15189 had come in by then, so there was a non-compliance. So we started to introduce vacuum tubes, and there were fewer redraws, fewer repeats, sample integrity was maintained. And it allowed us to go to higher levels of automation. So the question is, do we save 2,920 per day or go for the peace of mind? So the concept I'm trying to share with you is, even today, we would be doing things in our lab that would be driven by commerce. Just take a step back and do a due diligence to see, is it necessary to be driven by commerce, or can you look at the same process to enhance the patient experience? Calibration stability. It's an essential aspect of every analytical process. Its importance is generally underestimated. Significance is poorly understood. So the general perception is calibration costs. All of us know that. Results are not affected by prolonging calibration. All assays have similar calibration schedules. As long as internal QC is within range, there's no need to calibrate. But in fact, this is where my understanding is very different. If we are allowing the QC to go out, it's like allowing fire to start in your lab. Do you generally prevent fire or allow fire to come in and extinguish it? You have to prevent the fire from starting. So you need to do calibration at regular intervals to ensure that the QC never goes out in the first place. So our perception was similar till our proficiency testing went wayward. Small changes in internal QC went unnoticed, and then ISO 15189 compliance became an issue. So we reviewed the information. Calibration schedule was revisited. Calibration was done more frequently at scheduled time, and then we looked at cost of calibration in a very different way. Before I go to the next example, just a small comic. This is the HR. I hope there are no HR in this. अगर तुम लोगों ने कल से 2 अंडे नहीं दिए तो कल से तुम्हारा दाना पानी बंद. So these people said they've done their work. There's one person who says, meaning the HR says, तुमने एक ही अंडा ही क्यों दिया? सर ये भी अप्रेजल के डर के वजह से दे दिया, वरना मैं तो मुर्गा हूँ. So this is real performance pressure sometimes, and it can become unnatural if our expectations from our staff are not reasonable. It can be very difficult for the staff. Then was the pneumatic tube system. Transportation of samples is perceived as an insignificant step in workflow. It is taken for granted. And so in 1998, transportation of samples became a bottleneck because as all other processes were well settled in our lab. Phlebotomy was good, sample identification, barcoding was coming in, two-way interface was there, essentially all ingredients to deliver results early, but samples were transported manually. Samples were sent in batches every half an hour, and sometimes the personnel did not adhere to time because the same person was asked to go and get a cup of coffee. So all support systems were in place, yet could not deliver reports in time. Patients were dissatisfied. So what we did was, in early 2000, I think in 1999, 2000, we built an overhead conveyor. So this is a conveyor system that uses the belt, like in baggage claim in airports, to carry the sample individually, because we didn't have enough space to put the conveyor on the floor, so we took it overhead, and that's another story. So anyway, we used this extensively. It worked very effectively for close to 5 years. And then we brought in the pneumatic station. So totally we had 3 stations to transport sample. We have about 8 stations now. Samples reach in 10 to 12 seconds. Compliance levels are high. Technologists are delighted because they can use it. There's no pressure on them to send samples immediately. Turnaround time is considerably improved. Patients are delighted because they're getting the reports on time. Not all of them. We still have trouble. Lab can handle a higher workload without getting stressed. So the question is, each station costed 5 lakhs. Now, this is cost. Do we have to cut this cost? It's capital intensive. Our focus was time, patient delight, and productivity. So we let go the 5 lakhs because I think this is far more important than the money. This is an example I give because this is a simple test, like pregnancy test, which we reported. We did a blunder. I had a lady call me many years ago and said, "Doc, you have given a report, pregnancy test negative. I've done it at home, it's positive. What do you want me to do?" I said, "Please don't do anything. I'll get my person to come and take a fresh sample." And we did it. As I keep the phone down, my technologist comes running to me. She says, "Sir, I've done a blunder." I said, "What happened?" "The device is positive, but there are so many samples. While writing in the register, I have written it as negative." I said, "That's okay. What happened to the process?" Because the team leader had to see this. Apparently, the team leader was on the 4th floor, and she was on the 1st floor. So she took the register to the 4th floor, and there, because this technologist is very sincere, very good in her work, the team leader looked at her and she said, "Negative, negative," signed. So when 2 people sign off a result, it came to me and I signed out because 2 people had already verified it. Question is this a system error or a human error? How many of you believe this is a human error? Please raise your hands. How many of you believe this is a system error? Please raise your hands. Okay. So the technologist was very good at her work. Supervisor did not verify the result by looking at the pregnancy test device. So the system allowed the error to happen because verification was difficult if the supervisor was not in the department. Now, if this is the root cause, the solution for the root cause is getting a camera attached to the LIS. This camera is about 25,000 rupees. It's a documentation camera that we use. And every test, pregnancy test, gets captured under the camera. And we will have the result coming on the LIS, even for the person who's signing out the report to see. Now, when I called my staff and I told them this is what we have done because we have done a blunder. So they came up and they said, we can start using the camera for blood grouping, tube test, card test, cultures, and everything. So this we did about 8 years ago, and now we have about close to 15 cameras in different parts of the lab, which captures all the manual processes. Now, if we had thought of 25,000 as a cost, it would never have come into the lab. But it is the staff delight and the productivity that we looked at and let the 25,000 go. But what the good part is, now we have enough images and reports, results, that we can build an algorithm to analyze the image to generate the result without the manual intervention. Of course, that's a journey that we are going through, but I just thought I'll share that with you. So, if we are looking at cutting costs across innovation and patient experience, believe me, it's, in my view, not the right way forward. So you can still do cost cutting, but please do a due diligence before you quickly say this, it costs too much. The typical human nature is that of survival. 80% of us sitting here will have the instinct of survival. The instinct of survival is there because of the fear of failure, anticipated loss. There is a problem creation and defensiveness. We have to move from survival mode to thriving mode. And that's where we create opportunities, look for new possibilities, new ideas, and solution. Many years ago, I told my staff to give me the feeling, what they feel when they work in the lab, and each one of them have their own expression. So indiscriminate cost cutting can drop quality levels, drop safety standards, drop service standards, and drop employee standards. So you need to be very careful in how you're going to cut the costs. Focus on process-oriented improvement. 70% of errors that happen in the lab are system-based, 30% human-based. Of the 30%, 90% is because of attitude. So if you can use that to improve, it's even better. Patient satisfaction and delight should be the focus, innovation and continual improvement. With that, I thank you for a patient hearing. Thank you very much.